From the News Channel 5 Network, this is SportsLine.
Welcome inside SportsLine, everybody. John Burton with you on our usual Wednesday extravaganza. Great to have you with us. A lot going on, a lot to get to. 737-7767 is the number to call. Of course, we're going to be talking about the Predators as they lose last night to the Anaheim Ducks 3-0. But they still lead this best of 7 Western Conference Series 2-1. Game 4 comes up tomorrow night at Bridgestone Arena. And I want to know from Preds fans, are you concerned about what you saw last night? If you were at the game, which I was, do you still feel the Predators are in control of this series? You can give us a call and let us know, 737-7767. Obviously, tomorrow night, a critical game for the Preds. If they win, of course, they'd be up 3-1. A commanding lead, certainly, as the series would shift back to Anaheim Saturday at a time yet to be determined. But if the Ducks come out and win tomorrow night, now it's a 2-2 series. They've regained home ice advantage, and they've got to win it's a best 2 out of 3 now after that. And, of course, the Ducks would get 2 of those 3 games at home. So a pivotal, critical game for the Nashville Predators tomorrow night against the Anaheim Ducks. So we're going to talk a lot of hockey as we, again, dive into this series and see what lies ahead in Game 4 and beyond. But also want to hear from Titans fans. This is our first chance to really get together and chat since the big trade last week. The Titans moving out of the #1 overall spot. The big trade with the LA Rams. They're now sitting at 15. You know about the number of draft picks that they've acquired not only this year but next year. And I want to know from Titans fans, what is your dream scenario? The draft is a week from tomorrow night, folks. It is upon us as we speak. And I want to know from Titans fans, what is your ideal scenario? Stay at 15? Do you think they can get a good player still at 15? Do you want them to trade back in to the top 10? Give me your opinions on what the Titans should do in the upcoming NFL draft. Again, just 8 nights away, so we are looking forward to that as well. Right now, we're going to take you to some videotape. Head coach Peter Laviolette meeting the media this morning at Bridgestone Arena following today's practice. Of course, the Preds coming off that 3-0 loss to the Anaheim Ducks last night, but they still lead the series 2-1, as we said. Game 4 comes up tomorrow night.
Peter, I know that all of your forwards are used to playing with each other in some capacity, but that continuity that you had in your forward lines, I think, led to a lot of the success that you had in the second half. If Craig doesn't play tomorrow, how can your players that do play manufacture that chemistry to make sure things keep rolling?
Well, injuries happen all the time, and things happen. Things weren't set in stone down the stretch. There was always movement based on injury or guys playing well. So those are things that happen, I think, through the course of the regular season and through the course of the playoffs. Our guys have played with each other. If we do move somebody up there, I'm sure that there's been some sort of chemistry in the past with those players, and they'll be able to figure that out. I'm not too concerned about that, and I think you get more concerned just about missing a player. If a player is out of the lineup, you miss their presence and what they bring to the table.
Peter, do you have an update on Craig? I'm sorry.
Mike, please. Brooks.
I'm sorry.
Coach, it was with Ryan Johansson last night.
Back of the bus for you.
Coach Ryan Johansson last night really took ownership after the game, said, I've got to be better, my line's got to be better. Especially a player like him, he's a younger guy, but when he takes a leadership role in that sense after the game, what does that mean, especially at this time of the year?
Yeah, it's listen, they played a good game last night, and we didn't play to our potential. I think there's some things we can do better. And I think the first step in fixing things is a realization that we can be better and more accountable to the way we play the game. It's great for a young player like that to step up and say that, and we need more of that inside the room right now after a game last night. And I think our team has proven that when we don't come out and play the game we want, we usually take a step back in the right direction. So we're moving forward from there, and that's the right mindset to have.
Before Chris, Craig is listed as day-to-day with a lower body injury, so that is the update. Chris?
Coach, I know this is a best of 7 series, but do you consider Game 4 tomorrow night a must-win game?
They got to. Last night's game was important. tomorrow night's game is important, and then once that game's over, the next one will be important. So there's 7 games in a series, and I think I've been part of all of them and side of coaching, winning in 4, winning in 5, winning in 6, winning in 7, and probably losing in those same amount of time as well. They're all important. I mean, they're all big games. You got to get to 4, and it doesn't matter how you get there, when you get there, but certainly with them winning the last one, you want to make sure that we're moving things in the right direction. They're all important.
Coach, you mentioned the need for more leadership in the room like that. Ryan Johansson's example with Brooks. Where is the confidence at right now? I imagine it's good. You guys are up 2-1 in the series, but just in your own words, where's the confidence at?
Yeah. I don't know if I said I need more leadership in the room. Our leadership in the room is excellent.
I'm paraphrasing. Sorry.
Yeah. And I just want to make sure that doesn't get misquoted. And that's the reason why we do turn things around. I think after we play poorly is because we've got the right people in the room that recognize things and realize things, and then make sure that we do the right things moving forward in practice the next day or the upcoming game. And so we feel confident about that. What was your question?
Just where the confidence is at in the room in general, in the series.
I think listen. I don't think you get to this point in the regular season without confidence in a group and without them having belief in each other. No team, unlikely, any team's going to skate through 16-0. You're going to have to put days behind you and move forward, and that's what we're trying to do today. We looked and dissected what we needed to. We took from it what we needed, and we'll make adjustments that we need to make, and then we'll move forward.
Peter Laviolette, the head coach of the Nashville Predators, meeting the media after practice today. We want to bring in Adam Vingan. We want to bring in Adam Vingan of the Tennessean, our good buddy who covers the Nashville Predators. Adam, how are you tonight?
Good, JP. How are you?
Good, man. Thanks for being on. I'll ask you, Adam, what I asked Coach Love and a lot of the players last night. When you look at last night's game with Anaheim, the 3-0 loss, the Preds, I believe, 0 for 5 on the power play. We all know that the Ducks have the best penalty kill in the league. From what you saw last night, was it a case of the Predators not taking advantage of opportunities when they had the man advantage, or was it that the Ducks' PK was that good, or a little bit of both?
I think a little bit of both, because as you mentioned, they did have 5 power plays last night. I think they're 1 for 13 in the series, which also, as you mentioned as well, goes into the Ducks having the league leading penalty kill. But the Ducks are also the most penalized team in the NHL this year. So giving up a lot of power play chances is not unlike them. Of course, the one power play goal they have scored in this series was a game-winning goal by Shea Weber in Game 2, but that is the key to victory a lot in the playoff series with special teams, and the Predators have a decent power play. I don't think that they were making life particularly difficult for the Ducks last night offensively in any capacity, whether it be on special teams or at even strength. I think they were relying too much on low-quality chances, which reminded me a lot of the team in the first half of the season when they were inconsistent and having trouble scoring. So when you put that all together, you get the result you get last night. You get a shutout at home in a playoff game that you probably needed to win, but the best part about the Stanley Cup playoffs, at least at the beginning, is you get 2 games at home at first, so the Predators have another chance tomorrow night at Bridgestone.
Yeah, no question about it. We're going to talk about tomorrow night's game in just a second. But, again, a lot of people were talking about, the Predators came out flat and they weren't focused, and maybe they got a little fat and happy because they came home up 2-0. I don't know about you. I'm not buying it. I think this is a very good Anaheim Ducks team that was basically playing for their season last night. They came out, they played energized, desperate hockey, and they were the better team last night. Do you agree?
Yeah, I think so. And, while the Ducks were desperate, needed to be desperate and played in such a way, the Predators also needed to be desperate despite the position that they were in. I mean, being up 2-0, having 2 games at home, with a legitimate chance of closing out the series at home if they won both games, the Predators also need to be desperate too, because a 2-1 series lead like they have now is far different than a 3-0 series lead. The complexion of the series changes significantly when you have those two different leads in a series. So, I don't think it was for a lack of it. I wouldn't necessarily say that they were jittery or nervous or anything like that. They just came out flat, and they played a poor game overall, and it was their first real poor game in a while. I mean, it was a terrible time to do it, but if you get it out of your system now and you play better tomorrow, you can just chalk it up to an off night and move on. But that's why I look at tomorrow's game so critically. That in my opinion, I think the winner of tomorrow's game wins the series. I think if the Predators can find a way to win and go up 3-1, going to Anaheim on Saturday, even if they lose in Game 5, they would come back in Game 6 with a chance to close at home. But if it's 2-2, all that work they did in Anaheim is meaningless because they have to go back there tied at 2. Anaheim has home ice advantage again with 2 games at Honda Center, and you don't want to waste the Predators' first ever 2-0 series lead. So I look at tomorrow's game as being of a critical importance for Nashville.
Adam Vingan is our guest from the Tennessean who covers the Nashville Predators. Great to have him on, friend of the program. All right, Adam. Craig Smith, lower body injury. Obviously, you're not going to get a lot of information from the NHL in terms of injuries or from the team in terms of injuries, especially in the playoffs. But it doesn't sound to me, based on what we tried to gather this morning at the Predators practice, that he'll be available tomorrow, unless you're hearing something different.
No, it certainly looks like he won't play. I mean, the fact that he didn't practice today was a discouraging sign for them. I mean, it is being termed as a lower body injury. I think it's a left leg injury, just based on watching back the highlights of the first shift of the game, which is when he got hurt. If you watch it, he was on the ice for the opening faceoff. As the Predators win the faceoff, he dumps the puck into the zone, skates behind the net, chasing after the puck. Gets around the left circle, and the puck changes direction, so he tries to make a hard cut to change direction quickly. As he comes up from the cut, you see him sort of gingerly lift his left leg, take a couple strides, and they go right to the bench. I mean, he took another shift later in the period, but that was it for him. I mean, he was one of 4 Predators players this year to play in every game.
Right.
So missing games for Craig Smith is very uncharacteristic, but here's a guy who scored 20 goals in 3 consecutive years. He's probably their go-to secondary scoring threat. I mean, if you miss him, you really do miss a large part of your lineup. The Lions looked very disorganized last night, and I think that had a lot to do with why their offense looked so bad. But they'll have to make a change tomorrow. They'll have an optional skate in the morning, so we won't see what their lineup is going to look like until before game time. But I wouldn't expect Craig Smith to be there.
All right. How do you expect Lavi to change the lines up without Smitty available?
I think you start by putting Colin Wilson back in the top 6 and put him in that spot with Forsberg and Ribeiro. He is a top 6 player, even though he hasn't played like it this season. He does have that capability. The bottom 6 gets very jumbled. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if you see Mika Salomaki move up to the 3rd line to play with Fisher and Arvidsson, because the 3 of them had some chemistry earlier in the season. That 4th line, you could bring in Eric Nystrom, you could bring in Austin Watson, you could bring in Colton Sissons. They do have options. But in regards to who I think is going to replace Craig Smith, I think it's going to be Colin Wilson.
Adam Vingan is our guest from the Tennessean. We're talking about the Preds-Ducks playoff series. Preds lead 2-1. They lose last night to the Ducks 3-0. Game 4, a critical, as Adam said, Game 4 tomorrow night back at Bridgestone Arena. Adam, you look at the first 2 games in Anaheim that the Predators won. Now, I don't know how it looked from where you saw or where you sat, but it looked like the Ducks were spending too much time trying to get under the Predators' skin and agitate rather than trying to score and win the game. And you got to give the Predators a lot of credit for those first 2 games, staying disciplined and staying on their game. I mean, how much has that been a key, do you think, in this series so far?
Well, I think that you saw how the Ducks last night, I mean, they were obviously much more restrained emotionally. They weren't looking to engage after the whistle. They weren't looking for the extra push and shove and drawing those kinds of penalties. And I think that is a large reason, again, why they did so well in the game. I mean, the Predators were nowhere near as physical last night as they were in the first 2 games. And I think that, combined with the fact that the Ducks were physical but not out of control,
right,
I think was a recipe for the Anaheim victory.
All right, last question, Adam, and we'll get you out of here on this. We appreciate it. What do the Predators have to do in order to win tomorrow and go back to Anaheim up 3-1?
I think it starts with creating more offense and more threatening offense. They did outshoot the Ducks last night, 27-21, but the shots were largely non-threatening. Shea Weber mentioned after the game something that was said a lot in like November and December, that shots were from long range. There wasn't a lot of net front traffic. They weren't getting those high-quality chances. I think I only counted a handful of high-quality scoring chances of even strength for them yesterday. And especially with a goaltender like Frederick Anderson, who had the shutout yesterday, is a very good goaltender. You can't play that kind of long-range offensive game. You have to get in tight and make life difficult. So I think it starts with that, and of course you just need to have the energy. I think it came at first when the game started. Of course, the crowd was behind him. It was a great atmosphere at the beginning of the game yesterday. But as the game progressed, I feel like that energy, was diminished significantly, and they looked very listless by game's end. They need to keep that energy up. I mean, all those things I said they were doing in Anaheim, they've got to find a way to replicate those performances and bring them here.
He's Adam Vingan of the Tennessean. You can read him, of course, in the Tennessean. You can follow him on Twitter at Adam Vingan. Adam, we really appreciate you being on tonight, and we'll see you tomorrow night for Game 4.
All right, thanks, JB.
All right, that is the great Adam Vingan joining us here on SportsLine. Time for our first break. When we come back, it's your turn. Give us your thoughts on this series. Do you still feel comfortable with the Predators ahead 2-1? And your thoughts on the Titans in the NFL draft. What do you want them to do? Stay at 15, trade back into the top 10. Who is your ideal player to come to Nashville, Tennessee to play for your Titans? We'll get to your phone calls and a lot more. Stay with us.